Hi folks, Harry here from Gray Machine, and how are you doing? It's been a while. In fact, it's really almost been about 9 or 10 years since I've added original content to my YouTube channel. Now, been pretty busy since then, but my most recent job where I was working at Action VFX as a director of product marketplace is promptly laid off, and I've kind of been working freelance and side jobs since this past summer of 2024. And one of those jobs I was working on, it had quite a bit of arrowheads that needed to draw on and cut around corners and do curves and all kind of stuff. And what I found was that it is a real pain in the butt to do these in After Effects compared to other programs. It's pretty easy in Illustrator. It's even easy in things like PowerPoint, not to mention something like Figma. So I wanted to make a script that did this and just made it super easy. Now, I know there are other utilities out there that do this, but I just wanted to kind of challenge myself, start on a simple project that had a very specific focus. And I had a vision for what the UI would look like. So here is the panel, and I'll jump into how to install this in just a second, but that's kind of the backstory, picking up work where I can and working on my own products as I kind of push into new areas and learn new things. So this was my vision for something that makes arrowheads. You have a few default path styles. You can set what type of line you want, if it's flat or rounded, dashed, or rounded and dashed, and a couple arrowhead preset types. But before we jump into how to use this, let's make sure we know how to actually install a script. So I'm just gonna close out that project, and let's actually jump to the desktop where I've got my script. So assuming you download this and you have your script, you know where it is, there's a few different ways to run this. The first and most simple way is to simply go to File, Scripts, Run Script File. Now, if you're just doing like a very light project that needs a couple arrowheads, you don't need this docked with all your other fancy scripts, this might be just fine. You can just launch the script and run it from here. Now, this will not allow you to dock this in your After Effects interface. For that, you'll need to install this in your script UI panels. Now, After Effects does kind of a weird thing with this. There's actually two different places you can put your script UI panels, and I'm not entirely sure why they do this. You can go to File, Scripts, Install Script UI Panel, and locate that. And I actually generally don't do it this way, and the reason is that because it puts it in kind of an obscure location, and if you want to change that or get rid of it, it can be kind of hard to find. Now in the Mac, that is in like your username, library preferences, Adobe After Effects 25, or whatever your version is, script UI panels. I don't know why it does that, because there's another location in your applications folder. So if you go to where your applications are, locate After Effects, there should be a scripts folder in there. And inside your scripts folder, there should be script UI panels. Either of those places will allow you to install the script or run the script and dock the script as a dockable interface. So let me go to where I have this on my desktop, drop this in script UI panels. Yes, I do want to move it. It wants me to type in my password, so I'm not doing anything sneaky. I'm going to have to close and relaunch After Effects to see this in my script UI panels. And again, the reason I kind of avoid using the automated script install script UI panel is that it doesn't actually have the option to remove the script panel. So once it's in there, it's kind of stuck unless you bookmark where that really obscure location is. So now I put it in my script UI panels and my applications, and now it's showing up as Quiver under my window menu here, and at the bottom we've got Quiver, and now I can dock this wherever I'd like it to go. Now for this to work, you need to have a composition open and selected, because it's going to create some shape layers for you. So first, let's make a comp. Now, our options here are to simply define a preset path style, and we don't actually have to use these, but I'll come back to that. So let's say I pick this sort of half circle, I want it kind of rounded dash lines, and I'm going to stick a triangle arrowhead on it, and I'll click generate. And you saw it generate real quick. You actually have to jump forward in time to see it animate. Now, originally in my script, I had it set the time exactly to 1 second so you could see it. But then I realized as you were, perhaps making multiple arrowheads, it would keep pulling your playback head back to 1 second, and that became kind of annoying. So just know that you have to move forward in time to actually see the progress happen. Now, we don't have to use those path styles. I can draw just a general shape. Oh, it looks like I'm using Roto Bezier. That's fine. So I'll just draw a funky little shape here. If I select this and I go to Quiver and click Generate Arrow, it is going to draw that on. Now this does a little quirky thing at the end, and I want to talk about this. This isn't a bug in my script. Don't be sending me angry emails about this. Let me go back to the default arrowhead here. I'm just going to make a straight line that's flat with a little arrowy thingy on there. Now, if I go into my shapes here, in fact, generally what I do is just tap UU real fast. And the first arrow path here, that is the arrowhead path. That's what's defining the shape of the arrowhead. Or I'm sorry, the arrowhead path. This is the arrowhead here, the thing at the end, and then the stroke that happens along the way, that's the path. Now, if you don't have tangents that point your arrow in the right direction, you get some weird math happening, and it tends to start to get kind of confused as to where the arrowhead is supposed to point at the end. This is why all of these paths have default tangents, because it can get really kind of goofy with what happens with your arrowhead. So make sure when you're working with this that you have tangents that define the direction of the point at the very end. If it lacks that, in fact, if I just hold down Option Command, flatten that out, it will get to the end, and then it will kind of get all kinds of crazy as you move it around. You might get lucky and it'll point in the right direction, or it might not. And that's not what you want. So you want to make sure to have some tangents that define the direction of that point. Very important. Now, so like I said, you can draw your own. I don't recommend using a Roto Bezier. So if I'm drawing this out on my very last point, I would draw my handles out like that, click on Generate Arrow, and now it's using my shape. What about masks? Yes, you can draw a mask. So if I draw a mask shape or use a preset mask, like a star or circle or whatever, an open shape like this, if I select that, click on Generate Arrow, it will also use the mask, just like that. Pretty cool. Another cool thing that I added was the ability to use motion sketching, or just any sort of motion path, really. But if you have a null object with a motion path, we can draw arrows on that. So if I go to Window, Motion Sketch, and this always ends up a little goofy. There we go. And I say Start Capture, and it's going to capture my mouse movement, and I can sign my name or whatever. And if I leave that selected, click on Generate Arrow, it will draw out like that. And again, because this is capturing like the way it did, a little bit of goofiness happening on the motion path at the end. Again, I tap UU, look at that. Look at the path here. It's got some little messy stuff going on here. There. That should probably do it so that it does not point in a weird direction. So those are the three main options. This is certainly version 1.0 of this, so we can always look at doing other things, supporting multiple shapes perhaps, or any other requests that you have. I've tried to do my best to accommodate all kinds of weird positioning and scripting, or scale and whatnot. But just note that if you do things like create a solid and you put your mask on here and then you move the mask or whatever, and then you generate this arrow, it's going to get confused and not know exactly where to put it. It's going to try to compensate. So try to have some patience, because layer space transformations in After Effects get really messy in between masks and shape layers, which as an After Effects user, I'm sure you might have already dealt with. They just use two very different spaces, and sometimes they just don't quite line up. So that is the bulk of it. There's a couple other kind of hidden features here. Let me pick this S curve with a rounded thing, and then one of these arrow types is a polygon. If I click on generate arrow, it will draw this on, and it is drawing a procedural polygon shape. If I go to, well, okay, we haven't even talked about the effect controls, so let's do that. So attached to the arrowhead is a bunch of expression controls. Yes, I would love for this to be a pseudo effect and much cleaner than that. That will probably come in a later version, like a version 2.0. It was just too much to take on for this one project to learn pseudo effects and just kind of get up to speed on scripting. So forgive me for the kind of janky expression sliders and all that kind of stuff, but it works. So we have your progress that draws it on here. You have a control for the stroke width, the overall arrowhead size, length, width, all kinds of stuff that should be pretty straightforward and doesn't need me to, you don't need me to tell you what arrowhead width and length do. There's an option to scale up the arrowhead during the animation, which I think is a better aesthetic call than just having it start at 100%, but you can turn that off and have it start not scaled up. And then if you add a polygon type, there is a control here for the polygon sides. So this actually gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of, well, I want a circle, or I want an octagon or hexagon, or even a square, or even a triangle. Now, I didn't stick the rotation amount in here. I tried to not clutter things up too much. I trust you as smart animators to know that you can go in and change the rotation of the polygon. And you can do that simply by going to your contents, looking for the arrowhead group. That's where your arrowhead always is. And you can go to the arrowhead shape group. There's where you see the polystar path, and you can see your transformations in there. And then you can go to your rotation and rotate this to your heart's content. While I'm in here, just a quick note, you'll see a little bit of what might look like weird organization. There's an arrowhead group, arrowhead shape group. There's a stroke outside of it, and then there's a fill on the inside. And this was a good 2 days of my life trying to figure out this scripting and how to create these and move things around without errors. And the short story is, let's say you want this not filled, but you just want a stroke on it, and I have a pretty heavy amount of stroke on there. So let's say I start to distort this like more of a diamond shape or something. So I'll stretch that out. Let me go back into the transformations and fix the rotation of this. Maybe I'll make it a little bit smaller. So anyway, the point is that for a stroked arrowhead like this, if we don't group these in a clever way, we'll end up distorting the entire stroked shape, right? So if I apply transformations to the whole group that includes the stroke, in fact, if I open this up, you'll notice that scale is not on here because of that exact reason. You see, if I scale this up, it's going to distort everything. So there is a separate scale, separate group, and scaling happens to this sort of nested group inside here. Just something to note. Just know that I'm looking out for you and thinking of these things. Also, not really included in the interface or even in the any of the expression controls, but there's this blank start point too. Just if you happen to need it, if you want something to actually have a starting shape as well. So let me turn this off. I'll just, let's just create like a basic half circle kind of thing. And you want something here at the base. So let's twirl this open. Contents, we have our start point here. And again, by default, it is a polystar path, which you can edit to be whatever you want. In fact, it doesn't even have to be this. It's just a group with any sort of shape. I could delete that, draw some sort of weird square or rectangle and throw that in the start group path thing. Looks like I need to move that to the right point, right place. There. So now if I move this path, sorry, path. Let's move this whole path, or start changing the tangents on this. Let's select this path here, twist that around. So you'll see that start group still will align even if you change the shape in there or add or work with the one that I've added. Again, I've tried to work with the intelligence of the people that I think are using this and not clutter it up too much. I didn't want to bake any expressions in or shapes in unnecessarily. That said, there are quite a few expressions baked in terms of just, controlling the color and stroke and all that kind of stuff. But everything is in there that you can change and disable the expressions or just leave them in there if you don't feel like fussing with it. I think that about covers it. Hopefully I haven't skipped anything. Apologies for the rough delivery of the tutorial, and maybe I'm a little out of practice. But the script itself is a pay what you think it is worth utility. I think the suggested price I have in there is $15. I think it's pretty fair for 2 months of work and 1,000 lines of code. If for whatever reason you've ended up with this script and you didn't pay anything and you find it very useful, you can always click on the copyright at the bottom and that will take you to the product page, which is just a pretty basic Gumroad page right now. And that's really about it. Keep your eyes peeled. I've got lots of ideas and apparently lots of time to work on them. So I will be working on other products in the future. And hopefully making more tutorials and interacting with this great community a lot more than I have in the last few years. So stay tuned and I'll see you next time. Thanks.